The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and freshly cut grass as Elaine Carter and her brother David walked toward their grandmother's grave. It was the anniversary of her passing, a solemn ritual they had upheld every year since she was laid to rest in Ashwood Cemetery. Their father, Henry, walked a few steps behind, silent and withdrawn, clutching a bouquet of wilted lilies. Elaine knelt by the headstone, tracing the letters carved into the cold marble. Margaret Carter, beloved mother and grandmother, but something felt off. "David," she whispered, glancing at the ground. "The dirt, it's been disturbed." David frowned, crouching beside her. The soil, which should have settled after a year, looked freshly turned, uneven, and loose. Worse still, the headstone had a crack running through it that hadn't been there before. "Probably just settling," David muttered, but his voice lacked conviction. Elaine didn't buy it. A sense of unease prickled at her skin. "We need to check," she said. Their father's voice broke through their thoughts. "It's just a grave, Elaine. Let your grandmother rest." But Elaine couldn't shake the feeling that Margaret wasn't resting at all. Later that night, Elaine couldn't sleep. The image of the disturbed earth haunted her, and she found herself staring at the ceiling, listening to the wind howl outside her bedroom window. Then she heard it, a faint voice. "Elaine?" She bolted upright, heart hammering in her chest. She crept downstairs, careful not to wake her father. The voice came again, drifting from outside. Slowly, she approached the window, her breath fogging up the glass. Footprints. In the wet grass outside, leading away from their house and back toward the cemetery. She woke David, dragging him out of bed. "Something's wrong," she whispered. "We have to go back." Armed with flashlights, they made their way to the cemetery under the cover of darkness. The grave was exactly as they'd left it, except for one thing. The coffin was no longer buried. It sat half unearthed, the lid slightly ajar. David hesitated. "Elaine, I don't think..." But she was already pulling the lid open. It was empty. Elaine staggered back, the flashlight shaking in her trembling hands. Where is she?" David swallowed hard, staring into the hollow coffin. A thick, damp imprint was left inside, as if someone, or something, had crawled out. A sharp rustling sound made them both jump. From the trees beyond the cemetery, a shadow moved. Someone, or something, was watching them. The next morning, Elaine confronted their father. "Did you know about this?" she asked, placing Margaret's old diary on the table. Henry's face paled. "Where did you find that?" Elaine opened the book, flipping through brittle, yellowed pages filled with cryptic scribblings. Among them were lines that sent chills down her spine. "A debt that must be paid. They will come for me when the soil is ready. No Carter can rest in Ashwood." Her father exhaled shakily. "Your grandmother, she was afraid of being buried here. She always said this place wasn't meant for us." "Why didn't you tell us?" David asked, anger simmering in his voice. "Because I thought it was just nonsense," Henry said. "Old superstitions. I never thought..." He trailed off, looking toward the window, as if expecting someone to be standing there. Elaine didn't believe in nonsense, not anymore. Determined to get answers, Elaine and David searched the town archives. What they found chilled them to the bone. Ashwood Cemetery had a dark history. Dozens of disturbed graves over the decades, each belonging to the same lineage, their own. "We were never meant to be buried here," Elaine whispered, reading through the documents. One article described a legend, an old burial ground beneath the cemetery where a secret society conducted dark rituals, binding certain families to the land forever. Their family name appeared again and again in the town's records. David's voice wavered. "Elaine? What if Grandma didn't leave on her own?" That night, Elaine awoke to the sound of footsteps creaking through the hall outside her bedroom. She grabbed the flashlight and opened the door. No one was there, but the air was heavy, thick with the scent of earth. Downstairs, she found her father standing in the backyard, barefoot, his nightshirt dirt-streaked. His eyes were blank, and his lips moved in a whisper. Mom, I'm coming." Elaine grabbed his shoulders. "Dad!" He blinked at her, dazed. "Elaine, I was just..." He looked at his hands, caked in dirt. "I was dreaming." Elaine wasn't so sure. The final straw came when they returned to the grave one last time. This time, they dug deeper. Beneath Margaret's empty coffin, they found something worse. Another coffin, much older. Inside was a corpse, with Margaret's wedding ring on its bony finger. "That's impossible," David whispered. "Grandma wore that ring every day. How did it get here?" A low whisper echoed from the trees. "Elaine?" A figure emerged from the shadows, wearing a tattered dress, Margaret's dress, but it wasn't her. The figure's face was distorted, half decayed, and its eyes were hollow pits of darkness. Elaine screamed, scrambling away. David grabbed her hand, and they ran. Elaine and David packed their bags that night, taking their father with them. They left Ashwood, driving until the town was a distant memory in their rearview mirror. But something followed. Days later, Elaine found dirt on the front steps of their new home, the same muddy footprints leading to her window. And inside the mailbox was a letter. No return address. Just 3 words scrawled across the page. "You can't leave." Some graves are never meant to be disturbed, and some debts never go unpaid.